Thank everybody for joining me now on the BJ Murphy 360 podcast and the show. And with me tonight, this morning is
This
Algenon.
morning, not tonight. Yeah, that's right.
We're just getting our coffee in.
Yeah.
Joining me right now is Algenon Cash from the big city of Winston-Salem, Kernersville area. Glad to have you on the show, man.
Winston-Salem now, man.
Yeah, that's right. You moved in.
I'm a downtown guy now.
Like it. And so tell everybody a little bit about you real quick, because you and I have been friends for several years now. I think really highly of you, which is why I wanted you on the show real quick. But tell everybody real quick, 30 seconds or so, who is Algenon Cash?
Yeah, Algenon Cash. I'm an investment banker based out of Winston-Salem. Been in investment banking for about 15 years now. Have a real strong passion for entrepreneurship, real strong passion for financial literacy, economic literacy. Also dibble and dabble in politics from time to time when invited. And I don't know if you realize this or not, but you and I are actually getting ready to celebrate our anniversary tomorrow.
Is that right?
We met at the E.A. Morris,
right.
the E.A. Morris leadership program.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember what year now. It might have been 2012 or 11.
I was elected in 2009. It was at least 2010, so maybe 10 or 11.
Yeah, well, tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
That's our anniversary.
Wow.
So we'll be at the E.A. Morris leadership reception, and looking forward to seeing all our old friends too.
Well, and looking forward to that as well. Let's jump right into small business. I know you've been working on a personal brand for a while. You're an entrepreneur, so tell me real quick about why social media for Algenon Cash. Why should small businesses be engaged in social media?
Well, not just social media for Algenon Cash. I think it's social media for everyone now.
Mm-hmm.
Even my daughter came up to me one day and said, "Hey, I want my own website." So we went out and bought arianacash.com. So she's
Right.
even got her own website now. So I the first social media platform that I joined was LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And some of you out there, and I'm dating myself a little bit right now, but some of you out there will remember LinkedIn when it first came out. There was no Facebook, no Twitter. MySpace might have been around in some kind of an infancy stage. But even back then, I just saw the power of being able to aggregate and collect all your contacts into one place and being able to manage those relationships from one platform, being able to keep up with what your contacts and relationships are doing, which obviously makes your communication with them a lot more powerful, and just being able to raise your own visibility. I think nowadays the world is just moving so fast and so quickly. And we all want a voice out there. We all have great ideas that we want to be considered and shared. And social media provides that conduit for you to be able to get your message out to the world.
I'm a big fan of whether you are a celebrity or whether you're the cook beside the famous chef, that everybody should have or should be working towards a personal brand. You've all got something to give. And who knows, it could be that extra source of income 10, 20 years down the road that you were never expecting. But because people followed your journey, they saw the ups and the downs and the big wins, that maybe that's the thing that leads to being on Ellen DeGeneres' show or writing a book or something like that. Who knows, sitting down with Algenon Cash one day, getting some investment banking money.
Well, and the concept or the idea of a personal brand, I mean, that's still, I think, in its junior stage. I mean, that's still relatively new. I mean, back when I was growing up, when you said the word brand, you were talking about, Pepsi or Coca-Cola or GE or IBM or these large corporate brands that were recognized all around the world. And again, you have to consider they've always had a platform to be able to get their message out, which has established them as brands. But now you do have this concept of personal brands. I mean, people are literally creating their own personal space based on whatever their unique talents
which
are.
is just really an extension of who you are, your reputation. All you're doing is letting people in just a little bit more with that space.
And just emphasizing things. And I think being, at least for me, just being very deliberate and intentional about your behavior throughout the day, so that, again, whatever that personal brand or message you're trying to create, it's not garbled.
Right. Real quick, small business startups. What are some challenges that startups are facing, including capital, which I know is a big part of what your experience has been in. What is it that you do, and what kind of advice would you give to somebody who is looking to start up but needs to raise capital?
Yeah, I mean, I think lack of capital is more of a universal issue for small business owners. So no matter what industry you're in, No matter what size firm or company that you're trying to create, capital at some point will be needed because capital is the lifeblood of any business, doesn't matter what the size is. I think more specifically, and it's hard for me to speak about every industry because I'm not deep enough on every industry.
Right.
But thinking about the industries that I'm most involved in, which tends to be financial services, real estate, and food service, and I'll start with the latter on the food service side. Just increased competition. I mean, if I don't care what town or city you may live in, it seems like almost every other week you're hearing about a new restaurant opening. And then you also
One
hearing
of my new
about
clients is a brand new restaurant.
new restaurant that's opening, and then subsequently you're hearing about a restaurant that's closing, and so just increased competition. Everybody's a chef now.
Well, I mean, I ran a restaurant for 2 years. I mean, it's very cash intensive too.
It is, but I think what's so different now is that the people are much more informed about their food, and so everybody's a personal chef now. Everybody that spent a weekend watching Food Network thinks they know everything there is to know about food, and now you've got this new term called foodie that is really starting to proliferate. So I think just within the food business, I mean, so if you're out there and you're listening and you're in the food business, I mean, the competition out there is fierce. So that just means you have to be way more locked in than normal. You got to have all your numbers.
Niche.
Yeah, it's got to be dialed in. You got to be very creative about how you get your message out. That's where social media can be very powerful. Being able to get out messages about your food and what makes it different, what your unique selling proposition is. In the real estate space, I think, again, it depends on which particular asset class you're in. If you're in retail right now, the whole landscape of retail is being reshaped overnight.
Malls are closing left and right.
Malls are closing.
Amazon is
consumer behaviors are shifting at lightning speed. More and more consumers want products to come to them. They want it easier and easier and easier. They don't want to go out for products.
Right.
So again, I mean, just depending on the industry, and I won't go through all of them, but depending on the industry, there's always something going on or some disruption that may be occurring. And I just think you got to be very proactive about staying engaged.
So your number one tip to small business entrepreneurs who want to get something started, what is the number one thing they've got to do?
Be ready to compete. And I mean, it doesn't matter what industry that is or where you locate your business. Just be ready to compete. Be ready to be creative and innovative, and get out there and fight to let consumers know why your product or service is better than the next person.
So let's talk about Locked In with Algenon Cash. That was a Facebook page you started. Y'all should check it out. It's Locked In with Algenon Cash. Talk about why you started that, and then we'll spend a couple minutes on politics, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, about, I don't know, almost 10 years ago, I wrote an article called, it was 2010. It was actually 7 years ago. So 2010, I'm so locked in. And I started using this phrase, I'm so locked in.
Right.
And really what it means, and a lot of people send me messages privately, and they'll see that hashtag, I'm locked in, or are you locked in, or
Right.
stay locked in.
Right. I used it because I love it.
And people will say, what does that mean? And really it's just about getting really locked in on who you are. I think for me, many years ago, and my grandfather used to tell me this my entire life, that you can't change the world. I mean, as much as a lot of us would like to, and even people like DJ and I who have really big hearts, we want to change the world. But I think you have to discover that you can't change the world. You can only change yourself. You can only change your actions, your behaviors, and your habits. And so you really have to lock in on yourself. You got to really start focusing on.
Because we see a lot of blaming happening.
That's right.
This happened to me because of something someone else did. There's very little responsibility taken in today's society.
So you got to lock in on who you are, what you believe in, what your values are, what your work ethic is about, what your vision is about, and where you're trying to take yourself. And just stay zeroed in and locked in on whatever that is every single day. And if you do that, you'll start to change your own life, and other people will see and witness what you're doing, and you'll become a testament. And hopefully you inspire someone else to change their life.
Right.
Then they inspire someone else to change their life. And before you know it, we have changed the world.
Well, let me do something that is a first on the BJ Murphy 360 show and podcast. I want to talk about a current political event. There's something that I have kind of shied away from, but the more I started thinking about it, and I knew I was going to have you on, the one word, Trump.
Yeah,
Um,
it's the biggest word it's the biggest word in media right
so
now.
we could talk about him from a branding perspective. We could talk about him from a business mogul perspective, but he is now currently our president. So in the context of what we've been talking about, social media and small business, do you think Trump has been good for small business across the country?
Yes, and there's a lot of caveats to that we won't have time to get into. I encourage you, though, if you really want to learn more about the caveats, go to algenoncash.com, because I've been writing about the president not only since he's been up in an office,
Right.
but I've been writing about the president since his campaign. And there are many things that our 45th president has done that I fully agree with. And there are many things that our 45th president has done that I totally disagree with. But I think generally, if we want to isolate it to just a conversation about business, I think our president has been good for business.
Because a year ago, you and I were talking about him, and you had some concerns. You knew he was this business mogul, billionaire, paid for his own campaign. But the concern was he was so quick on the trigger, the Twitter trigger, that it could cause some disruption, some volatility in markets around the world. In over a year, what do you say about that now?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like maybe like many members of Congress, Wall Street tends to ignore what Trump is saying on Twitter from day to day, and they don't necessarily react to it in all senses. I do think some of the things that Trump is probably doing that I think it could spell some trouble as we keep moving forward, especially for business. I think the president's war on trade is something I deeply disagree with, and just the protectionist attitude that he wants to take in terms of imports and exports, and even some of these moves that he just recently made to raise tariffs on certain items that are coming into the country. I'm a free trader. I firmly believe that free trade and making sure that we have low barriers that allow us to trade with our neighbors and our partners are really important. I think it's really important to our economy and business, small business.
Right.
And so that, for me, that's something I've been watching since last year. I'll continue to watch this year. But no, all the tweets in the middle of the night certainly hasn't moved markets. If anything, markets have moved in the up direction.
Well, and we really don't have time to get into a lot of the aspects of it, and certainly we're not the talking heads that you see on the national news networks. But as small business owners and entrepreneurs, it does, what happens there does impact us. But the reality is, as I've told many people over the years, no matter what happens in D.C. or in our case, since we live in North Carolina and Raleigh, we're going to continue to do what we do best and navigate that system to maximize the whether it's our profit or our time with our kids or whatever our goal is. No matter what happens, we're going to work our way and navigate and make things happen.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what happens out of Washington, I mean, first of all, it's extremely difficult for just one person to do anything in Washington anyway. It takes a lot of different moving parts for it to happen. But I think BJ's right. I mean, I think you just stay focused on whatever your business is. Even when they passed the recent tax plan,
right,
a lot of people ask me, well, hey, Algenon, do you have clients that are going to do different things this year because of the tax restructure? And again, I work with a lot of small companies, and they're not reacting to those kind of changes the same way an Apple or a GE or a FedEx and some of the larger companies that you've heard about here recently.
So real quick, we're both young, under the age of 40, although we're not too far away from that, making that shift. What advice would you give to this next generation, millennials, in getting involved in politics? Some of them are really engaged, some of them are obviously disengaged. What advice would you get for somebody who says, I want to run for mayor, or I want to be the next governor, or I want to be president in 20 years?
Do it. 2 words. Just go ahead and get out and do it. Mm-hmm. And we need them to do it. We need more people to get involved, not just in terms of elected office, but we need people to get involved just in terms of service. Mm-hmm. You know, I serve on, I don't know, 4 or 5 community boards right now, and way too many.
Right.
And we need more people to be willing to share their time and talent, not just in public office, but just within their general community.
I was elected at 29, and one of the biggest values I gained from being young and in office was that I realized how much my opinion mattered, because there aren't a lot of other young people serving. And so that gave me more leverage a lot of times, because people actually wanted to hear my opinion. And so that's one thing I would encourage young folks. If you have a desire, find a way to get involved in the committee, go to a party meeting, but get involved, because it is absolutely necessary to make sure that your future children will have an environment to grow up in that's better than what we're doing now.
Yeah, and I'd say this. I mean, as we're wrapping up, I mean, I think I meet a lot of young people who have great ideas, and they're great at organizing and getting their friends together and rally around a particular issue. But I think they've got to understand that just getting together and rallying isn't necessarily going to solve the issue or the problem. If you really, really want to be a part of the solution, you have to go ahead and suit up, and you have to get in the game. And getting in the game might be running for office. Getting in the game might be getting appointed to a position. You may get appointed to the Parks and Recs board.
Right.
Getting in the game may be serving on a local United Way committee that's out counting the homeless like they did last week. So I just think you got to get in the game. You can't sit and talk about it. You can't post about it. You got to be about it.
Man, that's so true. True words. I don't know if they've ever been spoken about. I hear about this collectivism. I like something, so I feel good about myself. I'm good. I like what he said.
I shared something.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I've spoken out.
You actually got to roll the sleeves up and get to work.
That's
and
right.
Be a part of the solution instead of bickering about all the problems. So look, Algenon, appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you very much, my friend. AlgenonCash.com. Check out Locked In with Algenon Cash on Facebook. Certainly you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube,
Instagram. And they probably working on something new right now that we need to be on next week.
The next one is Vine 2, V2.
Yeah.
So BJ Murphy 360, and this was to your success.
Y'all stay locked in.
Love it, man.
All right.
Appreciate it, sir.